It's a fact that the body and the brain can be altered, restructured to the point where its sinful cravings can be as strong as hunger, if not stronger. In the case of drugs and alcohol, your body becomes dependent upon the substance. At that point, in extreme cases, the body's need for its vice can become life-threatening. Once the addiction has reached this point, willpower and discipline alone begin to lose their strength. The body begins to act on what it's been trained to do and crave. Sadly, these cravings are so strong that men and women give up all they love to fulfill them. I've seen parents abandon children, spouses abandon spouses, and people give up everything they've worked to achieve for just one more taste of what they crave. So the nature of addiction is thus, it begins in deception. That deception makes you more vulnerable to temptation. You choose to yield to that temptation. That yielding to temptation becomes a habit. That habit affects the body and the brain profoundly enough to become an addiction. By the time the bondage has become an addiction, there are physical elements to it. Addiction, hear this please, addiction is the physical consequence of a constant yielding to temptation. Let me say that again. Addiction is the physical consequence of a constant yielding to temptation. So you keep choosing to yield and to yield, the flesh gets stronger, 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 and eventually the flesh begins to alter brain chemistry and bodily cravings to where now you're dealing with an addiction. So if it's come to this point, what do? Number one, and this is addressing now the physiological element. Remember, we talked about the demonic, we talked about the flesh, now we're talking about the physiological element. Number one, deal with it early. James 1:14 and 15 say, temptation comes from our own desires, which entice us and drag us away. These desires give birth to sinful actions. And when sin is allowed to grow, it gives birth to death. So address it while it's still a smaller problem. This may not apply to everyone, but if you're noticing it beginning to form, you have to take action now. Number two, deal with it practically and spiritually. Now remember this, God can heal anyone of anything. I've seen drug addicts, I'm talking like heroin, I'm talking meth, I'm talking lifelong alcoholics. I've seen them delivered in an instant. And I would call that a deliverance/healing because their physical body is being touched by the power of the Holy Spirit. And I've seen them never touch drugs again, never touch alcohol again, and so forth. God does that. But that's not always the case. We cannot try to fit God in our boxes. God doesn't want to be put in a box. Those who say he can't heal people miraculously don't know what they're talking about. And those who say that God doesn't sometimes require of us to walk a journey, they don't know what they're talking about either. It's both and, not either or. God does not want to be put in a box. And so, yes, God can heal it instantly, but if he doesn't, you deal with it spiritually. Prayer, fasting, reading the word, church attendance, accountability, all of these things. And God has nothing against the medical profession. Now, I got to be careful with the way I say this because not all practical attempts at addressing addiction are biblically consistent.